VenomousStare, back with another Venomous Classic, a series in which I take a look back at classic StarCraft 2 games. Sometimes they're exceptional games that have to be re-examined. Sometimes they are games that had such a significant impact on the scene's history that we have to take a look back at them and contextualize them. And this is one of those, because we are talking about the Artosis Pylon today. So who is Artosis? And you can cue the video, by the way, of In Control jokingly explaining who Artosis is to that caller. One of the all-time great videos from State of the Game. Link will be in the description. Rest in peace, In Control. But to be back on topic, this is the origin of the Artosis Pylon. So I'm going to explain everything about this game and really contextualize it for you guys who have seen the phrase Artosis Pylon in a cast or seen it in a Twitch chat, heard it on a stream, and just think, well, you know, that's like a pylon that powers a lot of stuff. It goes way deeper than that. So spawning in the top right here is a pretty talented player named Fnatic Phoenix. This was a guy that played Protoss back in Brood War and had some really great series against Greg Idrifields. And in the bottom right is our boy Dan Artosis Stemkowski playing under the Six Jacks clan. Artosis was the leader of the Six Jacks clan. He played alongside such players as Vibe, who is now on Root. That was one of those clans early on in the life of StarCraft 2. And whenever I do the VenomousClassic Series, I always have to talk about what time period the game is, because the VenomousClassic Series can cover anything from the very beginning of Brood War to current day games, although that wouldn't really make much sense. But regardless, this is a 2011 early Wings of Liberty game. It's not super early 2010 because Artosis is playing Protoss. And if you've been watching Artosis' recent StarCraft 1 streams, you might think Artosis playing Protoss, but he hates Protoss. I will not only point out the fact that all the races are a little bit different in Brood War than they are from StarCraft 2, but Artosis actually started out as a macro Zerg player in StarCraft 2. It's a famous story. Artosis and Idra get together and say, it looks like Zerg is going to be the race that rewards the best macro players in StarCraft 2. And Idra agreed. And that's sort of a famous little conversation that happened behind the scenes, where Idra famously says on stream to someone asking him, Idra, why do you play Zerg? After he lost in a bullshit way and was complaining about Zerg, and Idra says with a smirk, I play Zerg because Artosis is a douchebag. And obviously Idra and Artosis are best friends, and Idra didn't really mean that as a slight. The joke is that Zerg was really, really bad for the first year of StarCraft 2's existence. They had to deal with no neutral rocks at the bottom of ramps, close position maps, choke pointy maps with no Ravagers. I could go on and on and on. It just was not a good time to be a Zerg player from the time the game came out in July of 2010 rather, to about late 2011. Not a good time to be a Zerg. Zerg's got a couple buffs. Specifically, the one that really swung things in favor of Zerg was in the summer of 2012, whenever the Queen got buffed and whenever the Overlord Speed got buffed, because Zerg had a really hard time scouting. So this is a NASL match, the North American Star League. This was a league casted by Rotterdam and Mr. Bitter. This is where Rotterdam got his start. If you ever watch games and think, Rotterdam, is that a Western European guy that can't say the word 3? Yeah, that's him. And this is how he got his start. He casted this league called the North American Star League, which, by the way, was originally offered to Artosis. The guys at NASL said, Artosis, why don't you come cast the NASL? This is going to be like the best North American league. And Artosis intelligently declined to continue casting the best games in Korea. And it's sort of funny to think about how great of a decision that was, as Phoenix here is going for an early 2-racks Marauder slow push, and Artosis is going to be caught off guard here. He really wanted to take his expansion, and like a true macro player, he's making 2 observers in a row, whereas a more aggressive player might opt for 1 observer and then go right into Immortal. But the Marauder is intelligently pulled back, and Phoenix delayed stem to go for this very tricky, quirky Marauder slow timing. And Terran was a lot harder to play against because the maps were smaller. It was significantly harder to scout. You didn't get hallucination by default. You had to research it. It took forever, and it was 100-100. And obviously you couldn't get it before you got Warp Gate. And overall, whether you be Protoss or Zerg, it was just harder to scout Terran. And Terran was a better race overall, especially aggressively in the early game. And because Artosis did not get his expansion down, he's in this really tricky spot where he had a well-timed out macro build, and Phoenix hit him with this really bizarre push. Phoenix has always been a pretty aggressive player, even when he played Protoss back in Brood War. So it's very hard for Artosis to defend something like this. And I want to point out the crux of the issue here, the linchpin of this Venomous Classic. In the NASL, the North American Star League, these matches took place online, and because it was a North American league, Artosis was playing at 5 a.m. with 200 ping. The dude's living in Korea, casting the best games in the world, busting his hump to provide everyone god-tier entertainment, and he's having to play these 5 a.m. cross-server 200 ping matches against some Terran player who rushed Marauder slow and ran into his natural on some goofball 4-player map that no one remembers the name of. So whenever you hear the phrase Artosis Pylon, like it's some big goof, like Artosis is an idiot, that's what the average fan might think. Oh, yeah, Artosis, he made like a really big mistake, and that's why they call it the Artosis Pylon. No. Artosis was playing cross-server, which if you've never played cross-server, it is brutal. I challenge you, if you live in America or Europe, which most of my fans do since all my videos are in English, whenever you log into StarCraft, click over to the Korea tab and play on Korea cross-server. And you might be thinking, oh, the Koreans are just so much better. If you're in Gold or Plat League or Diamond, there's not going to be a lot of difference. But the ping is brutal. Try playing StarCraft at a high level at 200 plus ping. You'll want to fucking shoot yourself. It is brutal. It's really difficult. So Artosis not only is playing an awful ping situation, but the guy's been up for hours. He probably has work in the morning. The guy's got a wife, even back in the day. And he's in this awful situation where if you've ever been involved in any of these online tournaments or cups, they take so long. The players are late. The admins have their head up their ass. The casters have to get in the game. These things always run way longer than they should. So Artosis is just way behind from that early game push. He's trying to tech into charge here, as back in this time everyone would open charge versus Terran. Oh, and this was 200-200 charge, not the 100-100 charge that we see nowadays. So what in the motherfuck? Okay, we got a little bit of lag there. Phoenix is taking a third, and he has a drop going out. And Phoenix is going to go for one of the tried and tested classic Terran moves. Drop the main, attack the front door. And for Artosis, this is going to be brutal. The leader of the media clan is way behind here, as even though this is Wings of Liberty, this is still really going to hit hard, as Phoenix is about 35 supply ahead of our American hero. And Phoenix will drop the back line as he pushes the front, and he's taking a third. +1 defense and charge, nowhere close to being done. And Artosis is going to take some damage. He does pull his probes, but Phoenix says, oh wow, look at that pylon. It's powering 3 gates, a robo, and your cyber core. I think I'll kill it. And when that pylon dies, the frontal army has free reign. And Artosis is in such deep shit, he's going to type out. So let's consider what happened here in this game. Artosis got behind in the early game, close positions, weird build, got unlucky, and after that, Phoenix swooped in and killed one vulnerable pylon. And it's very funny that a cross-server 5 a.m. match spawned this meme. Spawned this, oh, it's an Artosis pylon. You know, Artosis played Macro Zerg for like a year. It's just really funny, and the guy lives and breathes StarCraft Brood War Macro Terran. So it's very funny to me that he would be remembered for a gaffe he made in a 5 a.m. cross-server game in NASL Season 1. But this is it. This is the game. This is the origin of the Artosis Pylon. And I thought that this was something that was important to cover within the context of the history of the game. I'm not doing this to poke fun at Artosis or run him down. I absolutely love Artosis. He's my favorite caster, but similar to the Artosis curse meme, this is something that the casual fan will say over and over without having any fucking clue what it actually means. It's your boy VenomousStare. Subscribe for more, kids.